What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Inside the 10. My guest today is Coast Guard Academy offensive coordinator and O-line coach, JB Wells. Coach, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks, Jimmy. Thanks for having me.
You were appointed offensive coordinator and indeed O-line coach at the Coast Guard Academy back in March. Was it March this year or March last year?
March last year.
And, how did that role come about and what kind of attracted you to the role as well?
Yeah. Well, I had been a head coach at three different places over the last 21 years, and I was actually a high school head coach previous to coming here, and I just I liked coaching high school football. I did. But I'd spent like 27 years as a college coach, and I kind of preferred the college game, and just it actually kind of fell in my lap. The position was created, and I've known the head coach here for a long time. I've known the assistant athletic director here for a long time. And so when the job popped up, I made a couple of phone calls, and they said, "Oh yeah, put your stuff in," and it just kind of came together. And so I was really lucky to be considered, because the process to be hired at a federal service academy is completely different from any of the other schools that I've worked at. So it was a little bit of a different process. It was a little bit more red tape. But once we kind of got through it, it went pretty quick, and they offered me the job. And, I grew up about 5 minutes from the Coast Guard Academy. So familiar with this area of the world. I mean, my mother lives, still in the same place that I grew up. And so, it was an opportunity to kind of be right close to home. And I was saying I was dating. My wife was my fiance at the time, so and she's from New London, so like all these pieces just kind of came together, and so pretty lucky to
It
land
sounds like
here.
it was a very serendipitous situation that came up to coach in your home territory at such a kind of a prestigious program as well.
Completely, I had played against the Coast Guard as a player when I was in college, and so playing here and kind of making trips down here to compete, I was always just blown away by our facility, and our stadium is really unique, and there's tremendous tradition here. And then when I was a head coach, I actually coached against. We played the academy three times, and so I always had said, boy, if that'd be a great place to coach. I think that'd be kind of a really neat place to be for all the serendipitous reasons, sure, but from a football standpoint, I just thought it would be a really cool place to work, and it has been. I mean, it's been everything that I expected and more. And I've really just kind of, I think, found a home, where, I'm not worried about my next job. I'm not thinking about a next job. This is it. I love being here. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, from a football standpoint, obviously the Coast Guard Academy it's a Division 3 school. So, how much does the standard differ between the different divisions in your mind, or does the fact that it's a D3 school factor into the standard at all, really?
I think that people can kind of have that perception, right? That we're the lowest, quote unquote, the lowest division of college football, right? Division 1, Division 2, Division 3. But for the guys that have coached it and the guys that have played it, it's a great level of college football. It's very competitive. I think the only difference really is size. A little size, a little speed. But there's great players at Division 3, and we're no different. And I think that and then we're within our own little world with the four military academies, that the other three are Division 1 and we're Division 3, so we can kind of be perceived as a little brother in that respect. But I think that everything's relative. It's college football. Every college football team in America, from the best one to the worst one, is an all-star team. They were all the best players on their high school teams. Our guys are just as dedicated, if not, I think Division 3, if not more dedicated than their Division 1 brothers. Just because we have to do a little bit more with less.
Yeah.
We don't have some of the advantages, with maybe facility or time or those sorts of things. Our guys are true cadet athletes, and again, being at a military academy, we say cadet athlete because they're not just student athletes; they're cadet athletes. They have the academic, priorities that a high academic institution has, with the high priorities that a college football player has. But they also have a military commitment that they have to live, and so we're in a very unique place in Division III because there's nobody else like us at Division III. You know.
You mentioned there that the Coast Guard is still part of that family of service academy programs, and like with Army and Navy have the Commanders in Chief trophy, but you guys also have your own rivalry with the Merchant Marine Academy for the Secretary's Cup. So was that created as a parallel of the Commanders in Chief trophy, or how did that kind of come about?
To be honest, Jim, I don't know how it originated, but it's always been something. I think now when you look at us and that school down in New York, they're a service academy for sure, but they are not a military academy.
Yeah.
So we're different in that way, but we both are service academies, so we fall under the Department of Homeland Security. They fall under the Department of Transportation. So back in the day, we both used to fall under the Department of Transportation. So that's where I think the Secretary's Cup came from, that the Secretary of Transportation was sponsoring this rivalry between the schools. And it's not just with football, it's with all sports combined. So, but now we were kind of sectioned over to be part of Homeland Security, which really speaks to what we do, as an institution and as a branch of the service. And so now it's kind of between the Department of Homeland Security and the Department of Transportation. So, but it's a tremendous rivalry. There's no question about that. When you go down to Army or you go down to Navy and you see beat Army and you see beat Navy at those places, you will see beat Kings Point at our campus and you will see beat Coast Guard on their campus. So it's something that they take very, very seriously.
It's just as powerful a rivalry as the D1 equivalent.
No question. It's just like anything else. It's all relative. Ours is going to be smaller, but it doesn't take away the fact that it is very, very competitive, very heated, no love lost. It's kind of neat. We play on ESPN. Now we play on ESPN like 3, but we play on ESPN every year for that game. So for us, it's a big deal. There's flyovers, and they bring all the cadets out, and they march them out on the field, and it's a production.
ESPN is still ESPN, no matter what way you dice it up.
Whether you're playing on the Ocho or you're playing on ESPN, it's the same thing. So, but our guys really embrace the rivalry, and it's heated. I think anytime that you're able to have a really great old school traditional rival that shares something with you beyond just being two rival schools, I think it takes those things to another level, and that's a lot of fun.
This might be a slightly sore topic, Coach, so forgive me, but the Merchant Marine Academy have been, I think, it's successful in the previous 4 matchups. So is there any extra motivation coming into your preparation for the upcoming season? And is that game always circled on your calendar as the one to win?
Yeah, that game's kind of always circled. I don't think you can get away from it. I think over the course of my career, I've always tried to be a guy that doesn't pay attention to who the opponent is, and try to take it, one game at a time, and not worry about who they are, worry about who we are, and that kind of stuff. And I still kind of preach that, to the offensive guys, but I mean, you can't avoid it. You can't avoid how they feel about that game, and nor should you. So I think it's a little bit of a different thing. It's worked out now because of where we are with our league. That it comes up as the last game of the season, so it sits in a place. I think if you played that game mid-season, maybe it'd be a little bit different. But when you play that game at the end, it's kind of like it doesn't throw the records out. That game's a big game, and I think having not won that game in a cycle of 4, it's a sore subject. We don't like it. Our guys don't like it, and so I think but it was a really good game. I always tell guys, if you want to watch the game, watch the first half twice, because I think we were really good in the first half. But second half was tough. They came back and played us tough, and it was a close game right to the end. So I think that we've gotten to a point with the program where we're losing some close games, and we're playing extremely hard. So now I think the next phase in kind of growing the program and following Coach Grant's vision I think our next thing is to kind of start to win some of those close games. You know, I sat in the convention one year down in Florida, and I listened to Bobby Bowden speak, and he said when you're getting a program, you know, on its feet and winning, he goes, you're going to lose close. Well, you'll lose big, and then you'll lose close, and then you'll win close, and then you'll win big. And when you start winning big, you never let anybody forget it. So, you know, we're kind of in that phase where I think we could make a quantum leap. I think we've got a lot of good young players, and our guys are figuring it out. You know, I'd love to say that it's because of our offense, but I think it's a total program thing. You know, and our guys they just play harder, Jimmy. It's ridiculous. You know how hard these guys play. So when you have guys that'll do that, you know, you don't coach effort. We don't have bad practices. We don't raise our voices very often, you know, because our guys come down, and it is the best time of their day. Make no mistake about that, you know.
And is playing hard one of the philosophies that you try to instill in your players as a coach? Is that is that the main thing, or?
I think so. I think playing hard is important. I think execution is important. So I think we're at a point where, like, our guys play extremely hard, and they play to the end, and they won't quit. And they're never negative. They're always very positive. So those are great, but you got to be able to execute, you know. And I think some of our execution was lacking last year, and I think Coach Grant would agree with that. You know, it's something that we talk about as a staff is that we've got them playing hard, and we got disciplined kids because of where we're at. But at the end of the day, you got to still be able to execute. Playing hard isn't enough. So you know, so I think again that's part of this kind of growth of the program. You know, I think COVID was really tough here because, you know, whereas a lot of schools retained players for an extra year or an extra 2 years, our guys were commissioned and went into the fleet. You know, they didn't get an opportunity to stay back and play another year of college football. So our roster really took a hit, and we were playing with a roster of about 50, 55 guys to play a college football season. That's a tough order. But because of our kids, we remain competitive. So I think over the next couple of seasons of recruiting, we build our numbers back up. We continue going with what we're doing. I think we're going to be very, very good for a long time to come. You know, I'm glad I came in at this point because to be in there at the ground level where, you know, Coach Grant has just kind of started his tenure as the head guy, and to be in with him building this thing is very exciting. So.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of things, a lot of exciting things yet to come, and the program sounds like it's in a fantastic place to strike on now and take advantage of all that hard work and growth and progress that's been made. Coach, it's worth noting that you actually have ties to Irish American football through the original Carrick Fergus Knights. How did that come about?
Yeah, so this is going back because I'm 53, right? So I'm an old guy now, and but when I was a young guy, when I was 27, so this was back in '97. Back then there was no like this, you know. There was barely an internet, you know, like there was barely like websites. There was chat boards and chat rooms, right, where you could post something, right? Just this is like ancient history. It's so funny. So. So, you know, as coaches, you'd look on these chat boards and you could kind of like converse with coaches that way. Hey, you know, looking for information or, you know, trying to learn something. Job boards, that kind of stuff was all like this. And I remember I was on one day and I saw Irish American football team needs your help, right? So I looked at it and I sent a message back saying, what are you looking for? And it was a guy named Errol Maxwell. And Errol was kind of playing receiver for the Knights, and he was kind of like a general manager type player, type of guy. And so we kind of started conversing, and, you know, that turned into, you know, sharing messages and emails, and that went into like getting on the phone with each other. And then he said, hey, we've got some money. Would you like to come over? We'd like to fly you over, and you can stay with me, you know. So I flew over. And I was on kind of a funny contract. I was on like a 10-month contract, and I was changing jobs. So I got to the end of my job, and I was transitioning to the other job in the fall, and I had this month off in the summer. So I said, sure, I'll come over. And so I got my passport and I got my plane ticket and all this other stuff. And, you know, he wires me the money, and so I get all the stuff bought, and I'm ready to go. And about 2 weeks out, he says, you got your passport? Yeah. You got your tickets? Yeah. You got your kit? And I said, "What's kit?" And he said, "Your helmet and shoulder pads." I said, "Wait a minute, I'm playing?" I had no idea. So, I mean, I was 27, so I wasn't completely out of shape, but I was probably closer to being like round as a shape than, I was powerlifting at the time, so I was a lot bigger, and but I couldn't run from here to the door, and so I said, all right. So I went to the equipment guy and I said, I need helmet and shoulder pads, and I flew out of Boston. I landed in Belfast. They picked me up. They drove me to the pitch, Carrickfergus Rugby Club.
Yeah.
I suited up. They gave me a uniform. They said the offense is over there, and I just went over and got in the huddle, and we played a game. It was crazy.
You still have your jersey.
I do. You know what? I didn't have the jersey. Now the jerseys were actually, they were uniforms that were given to the Knights because the Steelers had played over in Ireland that year. So they were the black and gold practice uniforms of the Pittsburgh Steelers. So I didn't keep the jersey, but years later, I brought an all-star team over, and still being friends with the Knights, like years and years and years later, we got the Knights to come down to Dublin. We played like a friendly, in Dublin, and they brought me a jersey. They brought me this Carrickfergus yellow 00 Knights, and they actually signed an old jersey when I was over there the first time. So I had this autographed jersey. They had this nicer jersey that they gave me, and but I've stayed in contact with probably like 3 or 4 people from the Knights over the years. I've had some people come over and visit me here, and so it began a great relationship with European football, and then it's got my interactions with European football have kind of grown from there, grown into doing a lot of things with the British American Football Coaches Association. I've done some things with the German Football League, with some clinics and some coaching things. So I really enjoy it. I love growing the game. I love working with people that are passionate about it. And guys that are playing American football in Europe, they're a little bit, like they're the guys that were dropped on their heads as babies. You know what I mean? Like minority sport.
I was one of those guys.
Right, but minority sport. A lot of people don't understand it or get it. I know where it falls. We all know where it falls in the pecking order. You got to get through you got to get through soccer. You got to get through Gaelic football. You got to get through hurling. You got to get through rugby. You got to get through horse racing. You got to get a long way down. But once you get down to those guys and those people that are really passionate about it, they're the best. They're so much fun to be around. They're very appreciative of help. And I just like working with people that just, hey, we don't have a lot of time. We don't have a lot of experience. How do we still, make the game safe, make the game fun, get better? And I've never turned down anyone that's contacted me and said, hey, could you give us some time, get on a Zoom and do a clinic, or, like the BAFTA group has been great. They fly me over every summer. I've got kind of like a lifetime deal with them. It's pretty awesome. But, I'll fly over, I'll do some things, and that's been fun for me. I've always said that my goal when I retire is to get on with some team for a summer season over in Europe, and my wife and I go over and spend a football season over there. I'll coach and we'll travel and kind of combine two things that we love to do. So yeah.
We'll have to get you to pop across to Ireland the next summer you're over in the UK.
Yeah, well, I just got married, so I got married at the end of last year, and so my wife has never been anywhere. I'm lucky. I've been kind of like a lot of places, so all through football, which is nuts. But she wanted to go to Greece, so I said we'll go to Greece, and so our flight though, because Aer Lingus now has restarted their flights in and out of Hartford, Connecticut.
Yeah.
So we're going to use our main flight out of Hartford into Dublin, and then we'll take, Ryanair and EasyJet and Aegean Airlines and whatever you find to get over to where we're going to be. But part of the deal was she also wanted to spend some time in Dublin, so I'll probably get like a day going over and 2 days coming back in Dublin, and so that if anybody wants to send me places to go that are outside of, I don't want to be screwing around in Temple Bar with non-Irish people. I'd rather find local places and do local things. That's when I travel.
Temple Bar will run you about €10 a pint these days as well, so you definitely want to avoid that.
Absolutely ridiculous. I will not pay that. I will not do that. And I'd rather sit
Um,
next to somebody local. Like I'd rather
yeah,
do that. I don't want to.
yeah. So my last question for you, Coach, and I think you've already kind of answered this through your story about the Knights, but from all your time that's been spent playing and indeed coaching football, what is your favorite football memory? Like, what stands out to you the most as being the highlight of your 40-odd year career as a football player and coach?
It's so hard to say. Like you said, it's like been over 40. Like, wow, I'm 53. I've been probably involved. I probably haven't had a football season off since I was 10.
Yeah,
You know, and I can remember. I can still remember being 10 years old and starting to play, and like the first time I knocked somebody down in a football practice. That's a pretty good memory. But I've had very, very few negative experience with football. It's provided me a lot of identity. It was something that I was good at. I was a shy kid, and it provided me a way to kind of meet people, and it's done everything for me. I don't know. My first game as a head coach, that was kind of an exciting memory. My first championship as a head coach, that was an exciting memory. But I don't know. I guess the best memory is probably the next one. I think right now I'm looking forward to the memory of getting Coast Guard to a championship again.
yeah,
Those are the things. I don't know if there's any one thing, Jim. I couldn't even put my
yeah.
finger on it, honestly.
Well, look, Coach. Thanks so much for your time today. It's been a pleasure learning about your extensive coaching career, and all the best with the future in Coast Guard. And I'm sure our paths will cross in Dublin the next time you're over.
Let's plan on it. Let's do that. And I'm serious. If there's teams or players or coaches that want to ask a question, I mean, this is just like when Errol posted that thing on that message board, back in '97. I'm here to help. Like you said, my ties run deep, and I'd be more than happy to help in any way I can. Just reach out to me, hit me up on Twitter, and be more than happy. But yeah, we'll have to get together for a pint when I get over.
We'll get the message out, Coach. Have a great day, and thanks for your time.
All right, cheers, Jimmy. Thanks, man.
Thanks.